name is Matthias Wismar from the Observatory on Health Systems and Policies, and I'm here because the Observatory, together with a consortium, will produce policy briefs for the HEROES joint action. First of all, we want to safeguard the results that have been produced by this project. We want to bring it together in really good documents, because otherwise, of course, there will be scientific publication, there will be reports, but where is it where it all comes together? Policy brief will serve this. Second, policy brief will make the results of this very important joint action accessible to policymakers and their advisors. So it's a brief document, which usually follows a 1-3-20 formula, 1 page of key messages which make very clear what's in it, which make it actionable. 3 pages of executive summary, and who's got more interest can read 20 pages of more analytical stuff and explanation. And it's full of tables, infographics, and case studies where people, policymakers, can relate themselves to, where they can see, I understand, this is how it works in Slovenia. Slovenia is slightly different from my country, but I can figure out, how it would be in my country. So policy briefs are straightforward, jargon-free, and address really the information and policy needs of policymakers. So what will be in the policy brief? We are preparing a suite of 3 policy briefs. One is more about the strategic orientation. Why are we doing actually workforce forecasting and planning? To some extent, because we need to fight the crisis, the health workforce crisis. Policymakers are doing this everywhere, firefighting. We have too little, we have too few, we have skill gaps, we have medical deserts. They need to do this. But at the same time, there's the big transition ongoing. And part of the big transition is primary healthcare. We want to move to primary healthcare systems. We want to move to care integrations. We want to digitalize our health services. And to this end, we need to change the way how we forecast and plan the health workforce. And there are new and emerging roles and tasks. We have, for example, nurses in dedicated health promotion roles. We know it works very, very well. We have professions in advanced roles like nurses, pharmacists, physiotherapists. We have teams, new teams, and we have the big challenge of new settings like hospital at home. How do we train people, nurses, doctors, that they can deliver hospital at home? So this is the strategy bit, what are we planning for? The second brief will be about matching data and methods. We know we need new methods to plan for these new tasks, roles, services, to facilitate the big transition. But what are these methods actually? And I think that we get a lot on this from HEROES actually. HEROES is developing these methods, sometimes small scale, sometimes for local purpose, but very often for national purpose and for the big transition. But if we have the methods, how do we make that the data match actually the methods, that we get the right data? So this will be the topic of the second brief. And the third brief is, if we have the data, if we have an understanding, what the workforce looks like and how it could develop, how do we make sure that it's not just a report, but that stakeholders and policymakers really adopt it? And therefore, we need to have platforms for knowledge brokering, bringing together evidence and decision making. And this is the topic of the third brief. Policy briefs are not only there for reading, they have a very practical purpose. They are the backbone for discussion at national and sometimes also regional level. They facilitate policy dialogues. You bring together decision makers in a country, on a particular topic, and you use the policy brief to, number one, unpack the problem. What is really the problem? What's the magnitude of the problem? How severe is the problem? Number two, what are actually the policy options to resolve this problem? What do we know about the policy options? Do they work? What are their side effects? And number three, if we know about policy options, Are they implementable in my country? What do we know about the transferability? So these are the three issues with which policy briefs deal, and they can be used in the political discussion, in policy dialogues, and in bringing together all stakeholders that are making decisions. Thanks.